I never thought I'd be one of those guys who gets blindsided like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Emily for about 8 years now. When we first met, she seemed perfect, smart, beautiful, ambitious. I was a little naive maybe, but I thought we had something solid. I was running for president, and Emily was my biggest supporter, always by my side, pushing me, telling me I could win if I just kept going. The campaign was exhausting, but I genuinely believed we were building something meaningful, something that could change the country. Emily was involved in the campaign, helping with strategy, social media, even fundraising. At first, it was all good. I trusted her completely. She was my wife, my partner, the person I leaned on. But over the last few months, I started noticing little things. She was acting weird. She'd be on her phone late at night, quickly hiding the screen when I came into the room. She'd get defensive when I asked who she was talking to or what she was doing. She brushed off my concerns, calling me paranoid or insecure. I thought maybe I was just stressed from the campaign, or maybe I was imagining things. I mean, I've been working 18-hour days, fighting to get my message out, and maybe I was just exhausted and overthinking. Then came the little clues that I couldn't ignore anymore. Her phone screen would light up at weird times. She'd leave her laptop open when she went to the bathroom, and I'd see strange messages or strange contacts. I'd catch her in little lies, like saying she was at the grocery store, but her location data on my phone said she was somewhere else. Small things, but enough to set off alarms in my head. One night I was scrolling through our shared cloud storage because I'd been trying to get some campaign files organized, and I found a folder I didn't recognize, named something weird with a bunch of files in it. Curious, I opened it up, and what I saw made my stomach drop. Inside were strategy documents, detailed plans about the campaign, messaging, voter outreach. Except they weren't just campaign files. They had notes and annotations that seemed personal. Like behind-the-scenes insights only Emily could have had access to. That's when I got suspicious. I knew Emily was close to the campaign manager, Jason. They'd been working together a lot lately, more than usual. She'd always brush it off when I asked about him, saying he was just a colleague. But now, seeing those files, I couldn't help but think there was more to it. My wife, my partner, was giving him inside information. And from the way those files read, it was clear she'd been sharing stuff she shouldn't have. That's when I started to put the pieces together. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I couldn't ignore the evidence. It was all starting to add up. The secretive texts, her defensive attitude, those files. It felt like someone had been feeding her information, my campaign secrets, and I had a hunch who it was, Jason. And I had a sinking feeling it wasn't just about campaign strategy anymore. It was about her and him, something else, something sneaky. The worst part, I was furious, but I also felt betrayed. I'd trusted her with my whole life, and now I realized she'd been lying to my face for months. All those nights she said she was working late, all those times she was helping with the campaign. She was screwing my campaign manager. That thought alone made my blood boil. I felt sick, betrayed, and honestly, kind of stupid for not seeing it sooner. I kept thinking, how long has this been going on? Was I just blind, or did I want to believe she was faithful because that's what I needed to keep going? I started replaying all our conversations, all the moments I thought were innocent but now seemed so hollow. It hit me hard. I was building something important, fighting for a cause I believed in, and my wife was out there undermining me, screwing around with the guy I trusted most in this world. I stayed up that night, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. My mind was racing. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, but I also knew that would just open a can of worms I wasn't ready to deal with. Instead, I kept that folder on my phone, tucked away in a secret spot, trying to prepare myself for what was coming next. I was angry, confused, and feeling a strange mix of heartbreak and rage. How did I miss the signs? How could she do this after everything we'd been through? I'd always believed in honesty, loyalty, and fighting for each other. And here I was, discovering that the woman I loved had been playing me all along, sharing my secrets with the very man I was running against, all for what? A quick fuck. Some sneaky affair. That's where I am right now, sitting with all these feelings swirling inside. Knowing I have to face her, knowing I might lose everything I've worked so hard for, but also knowing I can't keep pretending I don't know the truth. Whatever happens next, I've got to decide how I want to handle this. I'm not the type to just sweep betrayal under the rug. I've always been about fighting for what's right, and now, I guess, that includes fighting for myself. I woke up the next morning feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind kept circling around that folder I found on her phone. I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. This wasn't just a petty betrayal. This was something that could destroy everything. My campaign, my marriage, maybe even my reputation. I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed a plan. I couldn't just blow up everything without thinking it through. Emily was in the kitchen making coffee when I walked in. She looked perfect, hair done, makeup perfect, that bitchy smirk on her face like she already knew she was fooling everyone. I felt my fists tight. I didn't say anything right away. I just stared at her, trying to keep my voice steady. So I finally said, my voice low but firm, "We need to talk." She turned to me, eyes narrowing. "What's there to talk about, Mike? You're reading too much into things. Maybe you're just stressed because of the campaign." I didn't buy her bullshit. I pulled out my phone and showed her the folder I'd found. "This. Explain this, Emily. What is this?" Her eyes widened for a split second, then she recovered quickly, brushing her hair back. "That's nothing, just some files I was saving for campaign stuff. You know how busy I've been. Maybe you're just paranoid." I shook my head, feeling my stomach twist. "No, this isn't just campaign stuff. These are notes and plans that only someone close to the campaign would have access to." "And the timing, Emily, tell me what the hell is going on. Are you sharing information with Jason?" Her face twisted into a sneer. "Jason, that's your big conspiracy. Please, you're losing it. Maybe you should focus on winning the damn election instead of snooping through my phone." I felt a surge of anger. I've been supportive, patient even, but this was the line. "Don't lie to me. I know you've been talking to him. I saw the texts, Emily. I know you're sleeping with him. How long has this been going on?" She scoffed, crossing her arms. "You really think I'd cheat on you? After everything, you're so paranoid. Maybe you're jealous because I'm better at this than you are. Maybe you're just mad I'm not falling at your feet anymore." That hit deep. She always was good at deflecting, twisting words, making herself look innocent, but I wasn't buying it anymore. She lied so easily, so convincingly. I could see the mask slipping off her face, revealing the bitch underneath. "I'm done," I said quietly, voice trembling with rage and heartbreak. "We're done. I want the truth, Emily. No more lies." She looked at me, her eyes cold, her lips curled in a mocking smile. "Fine, if you want the truth, here it is. I was helping Jason with some campaign ideas. So what? It's not like I slept with him or shared classified documents. You're overreacting." I clenched my fists. "That's not the point. The point is you lied, you betrayed me. All those nights I thought you were supporting me, you were screwing him, spoiling everything I worked for. I trusted you, Emily. And now I see I was just a pawn in your little game." She rolled her eyes. "God, you're such a drama queen. You think because I helped with some campaign stuff I'm cheating on you. You're pathetic. Honestly, I don't even know why I married you in the first place. You're so insecure." That was it. I'd had enough. My mind was racing, but I knew one thing. It wasn't just about her cheating anymore. It was about the fact that she'd been lying to my face for months, destroying everything I believed in. I felt a cold, sharp rage boiling inside me. I couldn't just walk away. I needed to make her feel what I was feeling. I said, "We're done. I want you out of the house today, and don't bother denying anything. You're not fooling me anymore. I have everything I need to end this, and I will." She looked at me, stunned for a second, then sneered again. "Whatever, Mike. Do whatever you want. You're just mad because I don't want to play your little game anymore. I'll be gone when I'm ready, and I don't give a shit what you think." That was the moment I knew I couldn't trust her. Not anymore. Everything I'd believed in, everything I fought for, crumbling in front of my eyes. I had to decide what I was going to do next. Confront her again, call her out publicly, or just cut her out completely and move on. The hurt was like a heavy weight in my chest, but I also felt clarity. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about reclaiming my life from someone who'd betrayed everything I stood for. I left the kitchen, went to my office, and stared at those files again. The rage was still there, simmering, But beneath that, there was a cold, calculated part of me that realized I had to be smart about this. Whatever I did next, I had to do it right, because I wasn't just fighting for my marriage, I was fighting for the integrity of everything I believed in, and I wasn't going to let her destroy that, no matter what. After that confrontation, I felt like I was walking on a razor's edge. Part of me wanted to tear everything apart right then and there, call her out in front of everyone, ruin her reputation as a way to get back at her. But deep down, I knew I had to be smart. If I wanted to win, if I wanted to make her pay for what she did, I had to plan carefully. That afternoon, I spent hours going over everything I knew, her texts, the files, her odd behaviors. I also started to think about what I wanted long-term. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I could stay married to her anymore, especially after learning she'd been lying to me for months, betraying me and sabotaging my campaign from within. But I wasn't about to make any rash decisions. I decided to do a little digging into Jason. I knew about him. He was my campaign manager's best friend, and a guy Emily had always been close to. I had to find out if there was more than just campaign talk between them. I spent the evening hacking into some email accounts and social media profiles, trying to find anything that would clarify what was really going on. I wasn't proud of this, but I needed to know the full story. What I found was shocking. There were messages, texts, and even some private emails that confirmed Emily and Jason had been more than just colleagues. There were intimate messages, flirtatious exchanges, and plans to meet up outside of work. I saw pictures, screenshots of their private conversations, some with suggestive captions. It wasn't just a flirtation. It was clear they'd crossed a line. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut all over again. The woman I'd trusted, the woman I thought was my partner in this fight, had been cheating on me with the one person I thought was on my side. That night I sat alone in my office, staring at those messages and trying to process how deep this betrayal went. I felt sick. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that sneer, and those damn messages. The rage started to turn into a different feeling: hurt. Real, deep pain that this woman who had once been my everything could do something so cruel. I knew I couldn't confront her yet. Not without a plan. If I did, she'd spin it, deny everything, and I'd lose control. Instead, I decided to gather more evidence, proof that I could present if I decided to go public with everything. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just a jealous husband, I was someone with real proof. And I wanted her to realize I was serious about exposing her. In the days that followed, I set up a few fake accounts, contacted some people I knew could help me verify what I'd found. I wanted to see if she was still meeting him, or at least talking to him. The suspense was unbearable. I felt like I was living in a trap, waiting for the next shoe to drop, waiting to catch her in the act. And then it happened. One evening, I got a notification on my phone, an email alert from a security app I'd installed. It was a photo, a picture of Emily and Jason together in a hotel lobby. It was clear they'd been meeting, possibly for a long time. That was the proof I needed, the final nail in the coffin. I stared at that picture for a long time. My heart was pounding and I felt the world spinning around me. I'd always believed in honesty, in fighting for what's right, but now I felt like I'd been played for a fool. All those nights I stayed up working on my campaign, all those moments I thought she was by my side, she'd been with him, betraying me behind my back, and I'd trusted her. I'd sacrificed so much, and it turns out she was just using me, manipulating everything for her own selfish needs. My immediate instinct was to confront her again, call her out, show her I knew everything, but I held back. I realized I needed to be smarter. I had the evidence now, and I would decide how to use it, because this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about protecting what was left of my integrity, my reputation, and myself. I couldn't afford to be reckless. The next couple of days were a blur. I spent hours planning my next move, making sure I had all my ducks in a row. I knew I had to approach this carefully. I couldn't just blow up my entire life without thinking through the consequences. But I also knew that I couldn't stay silent. Not anymore. The betrayal was too deep, the damage too extensive. That's when I made my decision. I'd wait until I had everything I needed, more proof, a clear plan, and then I'd confront her head on. Either she'd come clean or I'd expose her publicly. Either way, I was done keeping quiet about it. I'd never been one to play the victim, but I also wouldn't let her get away with destroying everything I believed in: my marriage, my campaign, my trust. So here I am, sitting in my office again, feeling like I'm on the edge of a breaking point. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I do know one thing. I can't keep pretending I don't know what she's done, and I refuse to let her ruin me without a fight. Whatever comes next, I'll face it, because I'm done being the nice guy. It's time to fight back. The days that followed felt like hell. I was stuck in a loop, each moment haunted by the images of her with Jason, the betrayal burning in my chest. I had the proof now, the undeniable evidence that she'd been screwing around with him, undermining everything I fought for. But I wasn't ready to do anything yet. I needed to think. I needed a plan. Because once I made my move, there was no turning back. I started to notice small things. Her phone was always glued to her hand, even more than before. She was secretive, changing passwords, deleting messages, acting like a criminal on the run. I knew she was trying to erase her tracks, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. I had what I needed. I could wait her out, see how far she'd go. One night I followed her. I didn't want her to know, at least not yet. I parked my car across the street from the hotel she'd been sneaking off to. I watched her slip out of the house, glancing nervously around, then get into a cab. My stomach clenched. This was it. The final confirmation I needed that she was still cheating, still lying. She was with him. That picture was real. I stayed in the shadows, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak. That woman, who I'd trusted with everything, was out there with him, probably doing things I didn't even want to imagine. And I was just supposed to accept it. No, I was done accepting her lies. I decided I'd gather even more evidence, maybe even confront her in a way that would leave no room for denial. She needed to see I wasn't fooling around anymore. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. I knew I couldn't just go in guns blazing. That'd make everything worse. I wanted her to know I was serious, but I also wanted her to feel the weight of her actions. I set up a meeting with a private investigator. I told him to follow her, get footage, anything that could back up what I already knew. I wanted every detail, every sneaky meeting, every flirtatious glance. I had to be sure I had all bases covered. While waiting for my investigator to get back, I spent hours analyzing her behavior. She was more manipulative than I'd thought. Every word, every glance seemed calculated to throw me off. She'd suddenly become more demanding, more bitchy. Like she was trying to push me away or make me doubt myself. I could see through her act now. She was trying to control the narrative, make me question what I knew, but I didn't fall for it. Not anymore. And then finally the footage came through. Clear as day, I saw her slip into that hotel, meet Jason, share an intimate moment, then come back looking over her shoulder as if she was afraid of being caught. I watched the video over and over. It confirmed everything. The proof was irrefutable. She'd been lying to my face, sneaking around behind my back, all while pretending to support me. At that point, I knew I had to act. I couldn't let her keep up this charade. I was ready to confront her publicly if I had to. I was sick of being played for a fool, but I also knew I had to do it smart. If I went straight to her now, she'd lie, deny, spin her web of bullshit. I had to catch her completely off guard. I decided to wait. I needed her to slip up again, or I needed to be in a position to expose everything. At once, I was going to give her enough rope to hang herself. Meanwhile, I'd prepare myself emotionally. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, but I refused to let her see how much she'd hurt me. I had to keep my cool, stay focused. If I played this right, I could turn her own lies against her. The tension in the house grew thicker each day. She started acting even more bitchy, snapping at me over nothing, throwing accusations my way, trying to make me doubt my own perception. I just kept quiet, watching her, waiting. I knew she was trying to manipulate me, but I was ready. I was sick and tired of her bullshit. I was done being the naive husband she thought she could walk all over. And then one night I got the final piece of evidence I needed. I set up a hidden camera in the living room, nothing overt, just a small device I knew she wouldn't notice. I waited. Sure enough, she left her phone unattended, talking loudly on a call. I peeked at the screen and saw her in clear detail, admitting to her best friend that she was sleeping with Jason. 2. Get ahead, she said. She didn't care about the fallout, she just wanted to win. That was it. I had everything I needed to end this. I sat there for a moment, feeling the weight of it all. Betrayal, anger, heartbreak, everything rushing through me at once. I knew the next step was going to be the hardest. I had to decide whether to confront her quietly or to go public and destroy her reputation and career. Either way, she was finished in my world. I'd never trust her again, and I wasn't going to pretend I did. For the first time in days, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized that I'd let her manipulate me for too long. I'd made excuses, told myself she was just stressed or busy. But she was just a liar, a manipulator who used me for her own gain. And I was done playing the fool. Whatever I did next, it would be the end of the line. I owed myself that much. I was ready to take back control, to finally put an end to her treachery and move on, even if it meant tearing everything apart to do it. The moment I saw that footage, everything changed. I sat there in silence, staring at her on the screen, her lips moving nonchalantly, talking about Jason like he was a conquest, a prize she'd won. My stomach clenched so tight I thought I'd throw up. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible. All those late nights, all the promises, the shared dreams, she'd been lying to me from the start. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut again and again. I knew I had to act, but I also knew I couldn't just storm in and ruin everything right away. I wanted her to feel the full impact of what I'd uncovered. I needed her to understand that I wasn't just some naive husband being played. No, I was someone who had been manipulated, betrayed, and used. I decided I'd wait for the perfect moment, one where I could finally confront her with undeniable proof, in a way that she couldn't spin her way out of. In the meantime, I started planning my next move. I reached out to a trusted lawyer and a close friend who had experience with this sort of thing. I needed to understand what legal options I had if I decided to go nuclear. I also started thinking about how to handle the fallout, what I'd say, how I'd expose her, whether I'd do it publicly or privately. I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her get away with this without consequences. I also began to prepare emotionally. I'd been numb for days, just going through the motions, but now I felt a boiling rage simmering underneath. I didn't want to do something reckless, but I also knew I couldn't stay silent. I had to make her see that I knew, that I wasn't some stupid fool anymore. I was about to make her regret every lie, every manipulation, every sneaky moment she'd ever spent with Jason. And then came the moment I'd been waiting for. I set a trap. I knew her pattern now, her routines, her hiding spots, her need to check her phone constantly. I took a chance. I left my phone in the living room with a recording device connected, just in case she slipped up again. I wanted her to know I was watching, listening, and ready. That night, I pretended to be asleep while she acted suspiciously, pacing around, whispering on the phone. Then out of nowhere, she went into her bedroom and started talking loudly, thinking she was alone. That was when I heard her confession. She was on the phone, bragging to her friend about how she'd finally gotten rid of him, me, because I'm so damn boring and Jason's way more exciting. She talked about how she'd used me, how I was just a tool to get her to the top. I listened in disbelief. All those nights I'd stayed loyal, trying to support her, and she was just playing me like a game. The words hit me hard, but I kept my composure. I was about to turn her own words against her. The next morning, I gathered all the evidence, screenshots, recordings, the footage, and prepared to confront her. I knew I wouldn't get any honest admission out of her easily. She was a bitch after all, and she loved to lie and manipulate. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I had her caught, dead to rights. I was ready to end this chapter one way or another. When she woke up, I sat her down. I told her I knew everything about the affair, the inside information, the hotel meetings, the lies. Her face twisted into that familiar sneer, but this time she looked rattled. I laid out all the evidence, watching her carefully, gauging her reaction. She tried to deny, to spin some bullshit about how I'd misunderstood, how she was just helping with campaign stuff. But I cut her off. I played the recordings, showed the screenshots, and her facade crumbled instantly. She yelled, cursed, called me insecure, paranoid, crazy, but I didn't care. I'd had enough of her lies. I told her she could pack her bags and leave tonight. I didn't want her near me anymore. I was done playing her game, done being the fool. I told her this wasn't just about the affair. It was about her complete lack of respect, her betrayal of everything we'd built. As she stormed out, furious and throwing tantrums, I felt a strange sense of relief. It was over. She was officially exposed, and I finally had control of the situation. It hurt like hell, but I knew I'd be better off without her. I realized I'd been living in a nightmare, and now I was finally waking up. Looking back, I learned a lot. I learned to trust my instincts, to see through lies, and to fight for myself. I also learned that some people are just selfish, manipulative, and willing to destroy everything they claim to cherish for their own selfish needs. I don't regret exposing her, even if it hurt like hell. Sometimes, the truth has to come out, no matter how painful. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know I'll be better off without her. And honestly, I feel a little freer already. After she left, the house felt emptier than I expected. The silence was deafening, and every corner seemed to echo with memories I was trying to forget. I spent the next few days packing up her things, not out of spite, but because I knew I couldn't keep her presence lingering around me. It was over, finally. I'd exposed her lies, her manipulations, her betrayal. That was the only way I could regain some sense of control. The truth is, I felt a complicated mix of relief, anger, and heartbreak. I was relieved that I finally uncovered everything, that I didn't have to live in deceit anymore. But I also felt the sting of betrayal, how deeply. She'd hurt me, how she'd used my trust as a weapon. I'd given her everything, and she'd thrown it back in my face for some quick sex and excitement with Jason. It was a brutal lesson in how some people can disguise their true selves behind a mask of charm and lies. In the aftermath, I've been reflecting on everything. I realized I'd been so caught up in fighting for my campaign and supporting her that I'd overlooked the signs that she was already planning her escape, already playing her game. Maybe I was naive, maybe I just didn't want to see the truth. But now that I know, I'm glad I didn't ignore it. Ignorance would have only made me a bigger fool. I also learned that confronting betrayal head-on is the only way to truly move on. Ignoring it, pretending it didn't happen, only prolongs the pain. I had to face the facts, gather my strength, and make the hard choices. And I did. I chose to stand up for myself, to expose her, to finally take control of my life again. Moving forward, I know things won't be easy. Trust is broken, and I'll probably carry the scars for a while, but I also know I'm stronger than I thought. I've learned a lot about loyalty, deception, and resilience. For anyone else dealing with betrayal, whether it's from a partner, a friend, or anyone you trust, I'll say this: don't be afraid to face the truth. Sometimes the hardest thing is the right thing, and in the end, facing the pain is the only way to truly heal. So that's my story. It's raw, it's real, and it's messy, but it's also mine. I'll pick up the pieces now, rebuild what I can, and move on. Because I deserve better than someone who lies, cheats, and manipulates to get what they want. And I'll make sure I never let anyone do that to me again.